The one and only.
Yes, I see myself as well.
The national treasure himself. Exactly, guys. Um, well, let's hear it. Why are you
Thanks for that
against the
theme song,
PS5
by the
Pro?
way.
Oh, you like it? I think you should make it the
Yeah,
starting song for every one of your videos on your channel. I think it'd be good.
not good for the retention though. I remember that was like pre-YouTube, like the early age. Everyone had, of course, the Ali A one is the most like famous one that they like turned up. I don't even know what it was, but like it would hurt your ears. Either way, thanks for having me again, and great to see the chat already popping off.
Yeah, no,
We got some.
we're feeling good. We're feeling good. We've been chatting about a lot of stuff. We debunked some of the stuff with regard to
Yeah,
Ubisoft and that stuff. I don't know. What were your thoughts on all of that?
I mean, I only saw the headlines, so I was like, okay, I'm not surprised that they're doing this, but I'm also not surprised that it's like not as bad as it sounds, because that's usually kind of how it goes. It's always like if Ubisoft does something, it's just extra fun to make fun of that, and sometimes it's legit for sure what's going on with Skull and Bones,
Mm-hmm.
but other times it's like, okay, yeah, of course, it's just funny. And also, sometimes you feel like if another company would have done the same thing, they would have gotten way less flag for it. But
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure every other major company does this. Like, this is not scandalous. I think I just got an email like a couple of months ago because I had like well, I think it was like a Turbo Squid account. It's like an online platform for selling 3D models and stuff. It's used
oh
by
yeah,
people. And way back in the day, I signed up with like a Yahoo email address to that website, and I sold some of the 3D models that I had made back when I was really into that, into 3D modeling stuff. And I haven't logged into Turbo Squid with that Yahoo email address in I don't even know how long. I have no idea. Like, I still have that Yahoo email address and I forward like priority emails to my Gmail, but like I have no idea when the last time I logged into that was. Years and years and years ago. And I got the email a few months ago that they were going to terminate my account because I'd been inactive so long. And on the one hand, you're like that why would they even need to do that? That's stupid that they would even do that. But then you realize, oh, well, there's probably regulations about privacy and retaining customer information and all of that that is very, very valid. And it's just frustrating to see so many incredibly smart and I think very respectable creators just like throw out all critical thinking when they are discussing Ubisoft stuff, because it's way easier to just jump on the super negative headline instead of being like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Let's investigate why they're doing this.
let's read the page.
Yeah, nobody even bothered to do that. It's
Yeah.
very frustrating.
I do think that this is like the start of the podcast. So should we do like the regular intro and stuff? Otherwise,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why don't you? I think I did it last week. Why don't you
Yeah,
kick
yeah,
us
you're
off?
right. You're right. You're right. So yeah, this is the Free Roam podcast that we do every week. It's been a holiday period for me. Joyce and Dennis, who work for the channel, they have been it's their second week off. So I've also been kind of touching grass and stuff like that. But I still got some holidays like actual where I'm actually like leaving the house planned. So I'm like during this period still doing some stuff here and there. But that's why we could not make last week's episode. But yeah, here we are back and we are discussing the news. I think the best way to describe it is for the types of games that we usually also discuss and that you listening or watching probably care about. So the open world single player type games. PlayStation, Ubisoft, those kind of things. Of course, broader than that as well. And we stream live on Luke's live channel every week. And yeah, we're aiming for Wednesday. But again, sometimes it's different. And apart from that, we got some cool topics. The chat is popping off. They insert questions. We're gonna have a good time, and we actually have some fun news to discuss. You already touched on like for people that are listening to the audio or joining later. You already touched a bit on Star Wars Outlaws, but I want to have your... Oh yeah, I want to ask you about a weird thing that happened during Ubisoft Investor Call that happened last week. Like they're still very secretive about a certain game. Then we also have PlayStation 5 Pro. You already mentioned it briefly. I'm not sure if you already discussed it here today, but we got some leaks regarding that. I'm curious what you think about it. I want to go a bit more in depth on the extra Insomniac game. For people that are not aware, a producer came on like a podcast and said, "Hey, I'm working on an unannounced game at Insomniac," and that's interesting because we already knew about Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine, so this is something else. That's kind of crazy. Is it multiplayer? Probably. And then we have also some other optional sort of topics that we can go through. There's like one news story from you, also Ubisoft related, that nobody picked up. So we can like talk about that as well.
I'm ready. It's been a relatively active week, a handful of things to discuss. We can jump into it. The first thing I think we should just touch on is something we just did a kind of debunk of on the stream, relating to Ubisoft before we get into discussion of Star Wars Outlaws,
Sure.
Red, and their financials and stuff. So earlier this week, there was sort of a story that broke and went pretty viral, frankly. It was kind of all over the place. And effectively what it was, it started from a tweet from Legacy Killer HD, Michael, if you don't know, Michael. And he is a content creator I follow. I watch him. He does really good stuff. But every once in a while, it's common for YouTubers to kind of get tempted with the negative headline because it's really funny to watch Ubisoft screw up, and frankly, they do it a lot. So the news story broke from some people that were sharing stories that Ubisoft was going to delete accounts that hadn't logged in over some period of time. And that would make you lose not just the account, but all of your purchases and everything associated with that account. And this sounds really, really bad, especially because you can dig into the terms of service. And it says if you're in the certain jurisdictions, I'll say, they can delete it after as little as 6 months of inactivity. And that sounds horrible. Like, oh, Ubisoft's just going to delete your account after you've not logged in for 6 months.
Then it's suddenly your problem that they're not launching new games that you want to play.
Yeah, exactly, through their specific launcher. So I looked at this story and I was like, hold on, this doesn't really make any sense. I don't understand what they'd be getting from this. This doesn't add up. And so I tweeted out the following. I said, I just don't understand what Ubisoft gets from this. Let me tweak this for people who are listening or watching the VOD so you guys can see it on screen. There we go. So I just don't understand what Ubisoft gets from this. Like, they save 40 kilobytes of data on a centralized server, noting that an inactive account owns X, Y, and Z games. If they're trying to force people into buying new copies of games, in other words, delete their previous copy and force them to buy again, I don't think this will do it, since they're just deleting inactive and abandoned accounts. Not exactly an ideal customer. I just feel like I'm missing something. Now, this is because when you see a news story that doesn't make any damn sense, I think you should investigate and figure out why it doesn't make any damn sense. Because usually there's an explanation. Normally there's something that explains why this is happening. Whether you like it or not, normally there's something going on. And it turns out there is something going on that's much less exciting than people, I think, we're hoping for. Effectively, this is all just a big nothing burger tied up into privacy and user data protections laws and regulations, which is almost less exciting than it sounds. It's not Ubisoft trying to steal your information or steal copies of games that you already bought. All it is that in cases of somebody not logging into their account, in the case of Ubisoft, they said their policy has not been enforced on accounts younger or that have not been touched in less than 4 years. So they've only done this for accounts 4 years or older. And it's because in some places throughout the world, there are privacy restrictions that force them to delete user data after a set period of time. And the exact instance of this is tied up in what's known as the General Data Protection Regulation, or the GDPR. And it says, quote, please be reassured that Ubisoft does not automatically close inactive accounts. However, per our terms of use, in rare instances, we can take action to comply with some local data protection legislation. This is only if we have strong reasons to believe that the account in question will remain unused. We may also close long-term inactive accounts to maintain our database. You will be notified by email if we begin the process of closing your inactive account. So it's not like they're just going to drop it.
Yeah. So you can probably get an email like a week or maybe even like a month upfront that says, hey, click this link, log in, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Probably right. Yeah.
And it makes sense because it's basically just a privacy thing. Like they are saying if you don't consent to them holding your info by logging in and signing the terms of service, they can't hold your info. And that includes what you've purchased and when and how. And frankly, if you haven't logged into an account in 5+ years or 4+ years, I don't think it's that shocking that they consider you to be an abandoned account. It just doesn't shock me. I'd prefer that they never delete the account, but this is more a concern with local legislation for data protection. So I take it up with your lawmakers.
It's just that people are, of course, scared that everything is moving into this digital future and that this stuff can happen. Like that, I think that's, of course, where everyone, like, you already have certain games on a disc. I think Avengers actually will always have the offline mode. But like there are like Anthem. Usually if you buy a game on disc, it works forever on that console unless that console breaks. Like we're now in a day and age where if you put in Anthem or any other live service game that shut down or whatever, like you can't play that disc. It's useless. So people are, of course, like scared about that, and everything slowly moving into digital. I think last year in particular, or was it? Yeah, last year in particular, we saw some very interesting things. Or was it this year? Damn, time flies. But like where Nintendo is even launching a game day one digital, and then a month later with the Metroid Collection as a physical release. Like, if even Nintendo, who I think like most of their sales are still physical because like their audience is younger and mostly parents buying stuff, I think. If even they are like experimenting with this, and we hear Alan Wake 2 is not even coming out physically, which is crazy. Like, if you said that to someone 3 years ago, that one of the probably highest rated games of the year will not have a disc version. And then you hear stuff like this. Okay, so we're all being forced to go digitally, and then I might lose access if I don't like log into an account. Like I can see why it's kind of scary. Although in this particular instance, it's not that scary than the headline seems to be.
It seems to be one of those cases where it's not about whether the story is true, it's about the idea within the story.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I think that's why it went viral, even though
And
I think it
Ubisoft.
matters if it's true. Like, yeah, and it's Ubisoft. It's just really fun to poke fun at them. But this is a policy that pretty much everybody enforces. And so you shouldn't, in this exact instance, you shouldn't be upset with Ubisoft. You should be upset with local legislators that have made laws that say companies can't hold your data past your consent for them to
I
hold your
even
data.
know like a worse version of this, and that is G2A. Like they have an inactivity sort of fee. So if you're, I think it's even like 6 months or something. I just get this like email regularly. So if you like sold something on that platform, or sometimes like get your money back or whatever, if you're not active on G2A, they will just take money from you from that balance. So I'm like, what? So all the time, like every time I'm reminded that G2A exists, I see like,
It's something
50
really
cents.
negative.
Yeah, it's like, oh no, there we go again.
That's insane.
Yeah. So that's like the other side of it.
Wow. Well, so anyway, guys, that story, I would love to jump on the Ubisoft hate bandwagon, but unfortunately, we're here to debunk the bullcrap.
Yeah. Yeah, we are aiming for the truth. I think, like you said, I think you should make a main video on it. I think you already got it in your head, so it should probably
Yeah,
work right.
it's like I said though, to everybody here on the stream before we started recording the podcast, it's frustrating because like Moist Critical, Mutahar, guys that I love and really respect as creators, I love them dearly, and I watch almost everything they do, but they can make a video kind of knee jerk reacting to this and distributing it, and that will be seen by 2, 3, 4 million people across their videos, and then I'll make the debunking video and it'll do 75,000. You know, like at what point it's just frustrating that there's not more concern with what is like with the corrections, what's factually actually the case. Even though we love the idea of the story because it demonstrates a point we want to make, I think the truth does matter. Otherwise, we're just kind of the boy who cried wolf. And when something bad actually happens, nobody takes us as seriously because we cried wolf so many times about stories that were kind of nothing burgers like this one. So
Yeah.
Jacob in chat, maybe we'll do a last minute main channel video. We'll put that up tomorrow. We'll do
Last minute, okay.
Yeah, we'll panic.
Well, this will be a very short podcast. Luke has to go now.
Bye, guys.
So let's move on to more truthful Ubisoft news because we got the investor. So I think you can like sit back. I want to like talk about some highlights.
Walk me through it.
Every quarter Ubisoft does their financial just like other big companies, of course, and I'm a sucker for them. Like I think it's very interesting to hear them talking to investors instead of media or creators or whatever, or like the customers like directly. So there were some interesting things. I want to like go over some highlights. For example, I think this one is interesting. The employee base for Ubisoft is down by more than 1,000 compared to last September. And that's mostly thanks to a tight control on recruitment. So they have like 20,000, I think, in September. That like 20,000 people working there. Seems like they're down to 19 or maybe even 18 if like that stats from September was already kind of different. So that's pretty big. Like they're not recruiting a lot of new people. Probably when someone leaves, it's like, yeah,
we
will figure it out. Yeah.
I mean, it's also crazy if they're saying that's mainly been done by just not recruiting. So they're just
tight control on recruitment.
They're just anticipating losing like 5% of their workforce annually. Like, is that what they did? Like, that's
probably,
that's crazy, dude. Like,
yeah.
I mean, maybe it could be contracted workers. That could be it. It could be contracted, or is this specifically describing full-time and part-time employees?
I think employee base. So I do think it's like full-time.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, but they have like a ton of studios, like everywhere in the world, of course. Also, like on Mirage, which was like a DLC turned into a full game, there are like more than 500 people working on that. Like for comparison, Horizon was made by 300 full-time employees at the peak. Last of Us Part 2, 200.
Mm-hmm.
Mirage, which like a way smaller game, 500 plus.
It's crazy. Like these games, these Ubisoft games they're made by so many freaking people.
Yeah.
It boggles the mind. Like just to see a picture of the studios and the people that made these games that they sometimes tweet out when the game goes gold, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like Santa Monica Studio, they're all in one room. And, you know, Guerrilla, they're all in one room. And then Ubisoft, it's just like a satellite image looking down. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, like every like team inside or like every Ubisoft studio like posting their own version of that image. So yeah, that's interesting. Like they did also like nuke a lot of jobs. For example, here in the Netherlands, that this pretty large office that like they completely closed and everyone left. There were like 23 people working there. So they did like they are moving away from their local sort of communication to having more like for Europe like a central spot that will then communicate to all the countries instead of having an office in every country. So that's like a big change already. So Q1 for Ubisoft, which like April, May, June, it was mostly like the sales were better than they expected. That was mostly because of Rainbow Six Siege. It's doing double digits. That's how they of course like to phrase it. Double digits like increased revenue versus last year. So it seems like Rainbow Six Siege going up again. Division 2 also doing well. They even mentioned that Riders Republic, remember that game, also is doing well for them, and Far Cry 6 as well, because it was, I think, published on PS Plus Extra, so it got like a huge boost from that. And The Crew 2 had like the highest number of players because of Motorfest that is coming. So even though I think like around me, I'm not hearing like a lot of people talk about that game. It's coming out in September, but like the fan base, the racing fans are high on it, and yeah, it might be like a cool sleeper hit for them.
Yeah.
Which nice. Yeah, Mirage, they expect the most from that in their financial year, which is kind of interesting. Like they're really banking hard on that, and probably the pre-orders are pretty great. And then kind of the about like the mobile game Assassin's Creed Jade, it's being made by Tencent. Like what happened? So that's the China game that looks like Odyssey but set in ancient China, and they got like Tencent paid them to use the Assassin's Creed license and make their own mobile game about it. And Ubisoft is only like getting that from that upfront payment, which like a few $100 million, which is kind of crazy. And they're also getting money or royalties, it's what they call it, from all the in-game purchases. So it's mostly a Tencent game, not a Ubisoft game.
That's crazy. That's going to be probably just, I mean, for Ubisoft, that's got to be a slam dunk. Get a few $100 million, you do nothing, and you just supervise that the IP is not being mistreated and then,
butchered.
Just something totally terrible, and then you just get royalties on it. And the royalties probably aren't, I mean, if it's making billions, it's probably gonna be crazy.
Yeah, they say they were pretty great because again, like they were probably only help with the marketing. That's probably gonna be it. So
I mean, I'm gonna try it, and I can't stand mobile games, but the leaks for that and what we've seen of that, pretty impressive. It's pretty crazy.
For sure. We have like, by the way, a super chat that I wanna
yes.
Near Drake. Do I pronounce it correctly?
Sounds right to me.
By the way, is it confirmed how big AC Mirage is in terms of hours in completion with all the side activities? So what they said is that it's gonna be similar to the first Assassin's Creed game, and I, for videos, looked at how long to beat, which was like 10 hours or 10 to 12 hours for the main story, then 20 hours if you also want to do all the side content, and then 30 hours if you want to get everything. And that sounds about right for Mirage as well.
Yeah. Really nice, kind of lean, mean, smaller game. Which is exactly what I'm looking for. So that excites me. Maybe for some people that's a bummer, but to me that sounds awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And then you also have time to finish it before Spider-Man comes out, which is also nice. Because like it's like 1 week apart. So and then we have like the kind of crazy part that you can maybe also show on the screen. So they talked about their upcoming lineup for 2024, which on like page, well, it feels like we're in school, but it's like page 4 of their financial briefing. And if you like scroll to page 4, then on the bottom you see, okay, so their financial year 2024 lineup includes, so this is the games they plan to launch between now and March 2024. Includes Assassin's Creed Mirage, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, we know that's coming December 7th. Rainbow Six Mobile, yes, really. Division Resurgence, which also a mobile game. Another large game. Okay, we will get back to that. They mentioned Just Dance 24 Edition, because instead of it being a new game, it's now like an update to 23, but they will still have a physical version, it seems. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Luke, I, by the way, looked this up, and this game is like $50. I thought it was like way less.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Yeah. It's like more, it's like the same price as Mirage.
Oh, that gets tricky.
Yeah. Skull and Bones. They still plan to launch that. Although what they said during their investor call is they have this beta August 25th. And they say that will be a cool milestone to see how far they are. Like, it really seems that if the feedback is bad on that beta, they will probably, push it even further.
Blows my mind.
Which is great. Yeah. And then we also have the Crew Motorfest, which we already talked about. And X Defiant, that Call of Duty free-to-play style game that probably will do better than anyone ever expected.
Yeah.
Which is
certainly better than Ubisoft initially expected after that first
yeah.
reveal. I mean, just work through each of these real quick before we get to the large one.
Sure.
X Defiant, responses have been really, really positive from everybody I've seen that's played it.
Yeah.
Especially like even hardcore Call of Duty streamers have played it and are very positive on it, which is wild. And seeing the success, especially kind of another wave of success for Rainbow Six Siege, I think Ubisoft knows how to keep games kind of like this going. And if they stick the landing with X Defiant, there could be another player in town, which would be great. Crew Motorfest.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
One more thing about X Defiant, they also like talked about the fact that they did not like pay influencers yet to play the game. They did have like their sort of open beta launch event, I think, but like that's how Apex Legends, of course, became that big. Right, everyone was playing it the day that it came out, like the biggest streamers ever. So if Ubisoft is like going to like, they haven't really marketed this game yet on like a huge scale. So a lot of people are just picking it up because they're like tired of Call of Duty and want to have something else. So again, it bodes well for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Crew Motorfest, I got to play this for like 3.5 hours. I thought it was pretty good, actually. It's based on playlists largely, which, you know, basically they do a lot of stuff in it. It's not a simulation racer, but there is depth there if you want to get in and tweak the minutia of like what percentage of your braking is in the front versus the back. And like there is stuff to really tweak if you want to get into it. Planes still fly like garbage, as do boats, but the driving is pretty solid. I thought there were enough playlists that I could see having a good amount of fun with it, especially with friends. I didn't get to play any like PvP anything, no racing with friends or other people in the demo thing that they were doing. So I don't know how that is going to be, but I would imagine playing with friends, you could actually have a good amount of fun in this. And for hardcore racing fans, I think it's going to be awesome. Skull and Bones. Do we need to even say anything? I mean,
no. The game will speak for itself, and I hope it's like better than we think. But I'm just tired of like talking about it. But it really like it was supposed to launch, of course, like in 2018. But like this newer version was supposed to launch November last year, and they're now like working on this PC only beta while the game is also coming to console, and they will just see that as like a good milestone to see where they are.
Yeah, like it.
Ouch.
I cannot wait for the Jason Schreier article that comes out when this game finally launches or when it's delayed again. Like, I just want to know what's going on in here, because it seems like nobody even can figure out what the hell it.
There was one already, like a one on the that basically talked about the whole fact that Ubisoft has to launch it because of the Singapore government.
Yeah, the
That was
Kotaku article. Yeah, like 2 years ago. And back then, 2 years ago, they were like, yeah, they've swapped through 3 or 4 game directors and everybody's super frustrated. And at the time, it's really funny reading the article now, because it's like we expect them to shove this out any month now. They got to just get it out. And now it's been 2 years and they might delay it further. It's just crazy. Prince of Persia Lost Crown, you're saying that's priced at $50. That's surprising.
Yeah, I saw that on my local. Yeah, maybe we can like look at the Ubisoft. Yeah, I saw it as well, and I was like, no, that's not how you do it.
That's a
because
lot.
Imagine if they like did it like a real Prince of Persia, like a big one, it would only be like $20 more. That's weird, right? That's weird. So.
Yeah, for those
maybe they're like,
just for those of you that don't remember what this is the reason that we're like kind of shocked by that price is because it's this game that was revealed at the Ubisoft forward that they did, and it's like the side-scrolling 2.5D game, which frankly I like. It looks good for what it is, but $50 is a surprising amount. I was expecting like 30 maybe.
This is a perfect Ubisoft Plus game. Like, get that subscription for $15, play through the game.
Yeah. Or like if they sign a deal for Game Pass day one, that could be good. But $50 is aggressive. Maybe we'll play it and we'll be like, oh my god, I would have paid $100 for this, but I don't expect.
I think it will be like, it's great, but wait for a price cut. I think that will be probably the notion.
Yeah.
Okay.
As for other ones, go for it.
The other large game is basically the other thing, because that's weird. Like we learned from Kotaku in May that because in May Ubisoft also talked about we have another large game next to Assassin's Creed Mirage and Avatar that is gonna come out before April 2024, and then Kotaku came out and said that other large game is Star Wars Outlaws. Then a few weeks later, Star Wars Outlaws was properly revealed. We got the reveal trailer, the gameplay looks awesome. But now, a month after the Outlaws reveal, they still mention that they have another large game, and they don't call it Star Wars Outlaws. So there are two possible options here, because there was one investor, and that's what I like about the investor calls as well. These investors, they of course got a ton of money into Ubisoft, so they also ask really good questions, because it's of course it's like they're from a bank and they make like a huge investment, but still they are like up to date. So this person was really, is it Star Wars Outlaws? And then Ubisoft said, we should not assume anything at this stage. And then they kind of like dodged a lot of questions, but they never said that this large game was unannounced. And they also never said that it was not Star Wars Outlaws. But yeah, another like question from the investor was, is it true that Star Wars Outlaws is only launching on, I think, Epic Game Store or like Ubisoft Connect, so not Steam? Because it's still not up on Steam. They also would not talk about that. So it's weird. Like, what do you make of it? Like, are they, because of Disney and Lucasfilm, they can't talk more about this? Because that's, of course, the crazy thing. If this is that other large game, then they still think it's going to launch early 2024, which probably way too ambitious.
Yeah, I mean, because the same company, the same studio is putting out Frontiers of Pandora just allegedly a few months before. Like this is...
Yeah, it's a different team inside, but it's the same studio.
It's the same studio. Like, and normally you would expect the studios to at least take like a year between, like you would think. So very, very surprising. I mean, if it's not Star Wars, for one, like it's just weird that they don't say we're hoping to get Star Wars Outlaws in this time period. I don't know what would prevent them from just saying that's our goal. It might wiggle outside of that window. We're just not sure yet.
Yeah, maybe Disney. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe Disney has weird requirements, or they're like, you can't say anything about release until Bob Iger has kissed you on the mouth. I don't know. But it is surprising, because if it's not Outlaws, what the hell is it?
I see Stefan in the chat saying maybe Beyond Good and Evil 2, but no. Like, that game is like even further out than Skull and Bones. Like, that game, I think, this year got like a narrative director. Like, they're still so far behind, and of course, a lot of things went down in that studio with Michel Ancel. Also, I think outed during the whole sort of purge, where a lot of developers from Ubisoft were outed for horrible behavior. And like, so they're still like, though I listen to all these investor calls, they never mention Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Everybody knows that it's like not even worth.
It's not happening. And even if it's happening, will that game sell well? I doubt it, unless like really, really good. Because we know about that, but nobody else actually. Like, I think the only other possible thing is that Immortals game that I've been like talking about for some time. And I think that makes sense. Like, announce that at the Game Awards, launch it in March. Like, why would you need that big sort of window, right? That big reveal to release for a game like that? I think that would be perfect, like 3 months. On the other hand, though, if it's not Star Wars Outlaws, why was that game already announced? If it's coming out at the end of next year, why do a San Diego Comic-Con panel?
Yeah.
If you, like, they're doing a lot of marketing for it already. If it's really that far away, that's weird. So,
I agree. It's because they just like yesterday dropped like 5-6 minute behind the scenes look at it.
That was at San Diego Comic-Con on a Saturday.
It's, I mean, maybe the possibility, maybe it could go either way. It could be that they are sitting on Star Wars Outlaws and they're waiting for LucasArts to do something. Lucasfilm, what's their game division called? Is it Lucasfilm Games, or
I don't know.
I can never remember. But either way, like, maybe they're waiting on something from Disney to give it a firm release date. Maybe and if they have to push that back, they're going to release that Immortals game last minute, there. I don't know. but it is just weird, like especially them being so freaking cagey about it, because I don't think the
Yeah.
investors would have been that shocked or that pissed off if they had just said, we're aiming to release Star Wars Outlaws during fiscal year 24. It might slip into early 25. I don't think they would have been that upset about it. But if they, like, this is just
Yeah, but
strangely vague.
it's for Ubisoft also, like, they need to show investors that they have a good lineup because they did not have one for the last few years. So that's
Yeah.
why they might be like doubting this this another large game. But they were asked directly, is it Star Wars Outlaws? If it was not Star Wars, they would have said no. Why would you like keep that in the air, right? Why would you not like kill that rumor? And again, Kotaku basically said it, and if I never thought we would see Star Wars this year because they announced it in early 2021. Another theory that I have, and then we can move on, but like maybe this Immortals game, because that's a big learning from Mario plus Rabbids that Ubisoft had. They actually went to Nintendo, and Nintendo was like, don't launch the game on the Switch now. Wait for the new one, because that's what if you think about it, that's what Nintendo does as well. For every big one of their big franchises, so Mario Kart, Smash, they only launch one game during the whole generation. Apart from Zelda, of course, but these are like quite different. But there's still no Mario Kart game on Switch, even though this is a Wii U port.
Mm-hmm.
So they said to Ubisoft, hey, don't launch the game now, but Ubisoft did it anyways, and the game flopped. So maybe Immortals is like, because there's already Phoenix Rising, they're saving this for the new Switch, and that's why they maybe cannot say it yet.
Maybe
like,
that could be interesting. Yeah. Because I mean, allegedly we're approaching the end of the current Switch's life cycle.
Yeah.
Which I think would be great, because
I hope they like have Switch, a trailer. Yeah, I hope they have a trailer like at the end of this year, just like for the Switch. I think they also had like one in the winter, and then they of course launched the device in March or something.
Yeah, how did they announce the Switch originally? What was like the first big
that was that video where like you have like the guys playing basketball, like stopping to play NBA on the Switch, and like the girl bringing the Switch to the party, and everyone is playing 1-2 Switch.
Yeah.
And it's like, we all thought nobody's gonna do it, but it actually happened or something, right? It's like,
yeah, and it was just like everybody, like a very serious adult gathering on a rooftop, and they just bring this out and they're all playing on the tiny screen. I remember this, yeah. And
when was it released? In October?
This was October of 2016. Yeah. That's wild. Man. Yeah, and this was so exciting. Do you think that they're just doing, this is a slight
Switch or Skyrim?
Switch. Yeah. Oh, and it looks so much sharper than it actually does on the console. But slight detour. Do you think that they're doing a Switch 2, or do you think that they tried it like, basically a Wii U situation, or do you think that they try to do something totally new?
I actually was like working at like a toy store, like a big one in the Netherlands, when the Wii U released, and everyone thought that the U-Draw, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
The U-Draw tablet from THQ, that was the Wii U. So they brought this package with like $60, like this iPad weird thing where you can draw to like the counter, and they were like, oh, do you like, this the new Nintendo console, right? I have like a Wii at home, so I just buy this and then I have a Wii U, right? Like, nobody understood it, which is crazy.
That's freaking hilarious. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Real quick, thank you, Neared Rage, for becoming a member. Appreciate you, my friend.
Yeah.
You got your badge.
Nice.
Welcome. And Sean, our patron saint. Sean, thank you so much. Hey guys, love this collaboration. First time I've caught a live one. That's tremendous, awesome. My friend. Thank you for coming by. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some people like only watch on Monday or can only like drop by on Monday. So it's the first time they see this.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
That's cool.
We also, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to say, like, I think they're doing a Switch 2, but they will probably call it not 2, but because like Nintendo really they don't want to reset everything again. That would be stupid. So it might even be that your digital games work on the Switch too immediately. That would be wild.
That would be very nice. Yeah, that would be very nice. Just, and dear God, if they can make one that like fits big boy hands a little better. I cannot play on the Switch without my pinkies going numb after like 5 minutes. It's an actual problem. People have said get the bigger grips and that helps a little, but
Oh yeah,
not
yeah,
much.
but then it's
Yeah.
like a beefy thing as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I like. I think it's gonna be very interesting because I think the first year for the Switch still like the best year the Switch had, with like Odyssey and Breath of the Wild and
Yeah.
Splatoon 2 and ARMS even.
Oh,
Like
ARMS, dude.
yeah,
I was so
fun
pissed
stuff
I
like
spent
that.
$60 on ARMS. I played it for like an hour and a half and I was like, oh, so this is like the whole game.
Yeah. It was like fun though. I played it actually on an airplane, like with the motion controls, and it's like,
I'm sure
yeah,
your
everyone
neighbors
looked at me
loved
with
you.
like, what the heck? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, dear God. Drinner, also thank you for the $10, my friend. What's up, fellas? Totally off subject, Luke. But I saw your short about Phantom Blade Zero, and all I can say is I'm calling full BS on that game. Total pipe dream. I think the animations look really good, but I think I said it in that clip. It's a lot. It's easy to make a Soulsborne style game look decent in trailers. Those games depend a lot on how they feel when you play them, and that's going to be the big question for that. There's a reason why From Software is so respected.
So for people that don't remember, this was like announced during the PlayStation Showcase, right? And it had like really cool, still like the sort of Soulsy feeling, but then with way more cinematic sort of sections where it was like on a cart and it was like a whip and like it was like kind of crazy. It looked really cool. I personally think that Rise of the Ronin will be like, I totally believe that game is legit. While I do agree, because it's also like a mobile studio making Phantom Blade Zero, that it's kind of wishy-washy if it will actually turn out like that.
Yeah,
totally agree.
And Tico, thank you so much, my friend. Appreciate you for the 2.
Yeah, thanks everyone for the support. So yeah, from the Switch to the or did you want to add anything to anything? Because then I want to. Okay.
That was my diatribe. I'm good.
Do we have like a sort of sad music because another game got shut down?
Hold on. Yeah,
really sad. Yeah.
Oh no. Oh, it's so sad. Sad royalty-free music. Emphasis on that. Okay. Okay. Emotional sad piano. Here we go. Let's see. Okay, it's going. I don't know if you can hear it, Jor, but it's going.
Oh, I can't hear it, but it's fine. That's fine. We got an important update for you. The Roller Champions experience is going to change moving forward. Considering the activity that we've been seeing in the game, we've made the decision to let tours and pick a prize become the definitive Roller Champions experiences. In short, they are not doing updates anymore for Roller Champions.
It's gone.
Thank you all for being along for the ride with us through this point. And we hope you will keep enjoying the definitive Roller Champions experience. They know how to spin it. There's still a
spin it, how to roll it.
But it's so interesting that, because did you see this? Like, did you notice this? Did you like, or because that's also very telling. Like, this tweet has 54 likes. And it's like the game shutting down. It's like a very important moment in this game's life.
This is the funeral.
Nobody, like 26,000 people saw this tweet, which is like anyone, like you don't even have to like have a really big following to get that much. So it's kind of scary.
This was a game I think a lot of people didn't even realize had launched.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's not a bad idea, but it's just one of those games that I think they announced really early and then they showed it off a few times. People didn't realize it released. And like in the live service game, if you release and then after a month people still haven't jumped in because of a miscommunication as simple as just, oh, it's launched or not launched or what, you're done. Like there's not much you can do. And you're right. I mean, 54 likes on a tweet like this is freaking hilarious. That's so bad.
And nobody picked it up. No like major news outlet or whatever like picked this up. And I really think they just didn't. Like I follow this channel because I did like play a few rounds when it launched, and I'm just always curious to like follow these accounts to see what the community is up to and kind of see the engagement on those tweets, which was really bad for Roller Champions. I mean, they still lasted pretty long. They even had like a Jet Set Radio sort of event, but that of course did not set the world on fire. But it looks pretty cool. But this was really in that day and age where everyone was like trying to make a new Rocket League style game.
Yeah. Everybody's trying to
And
make
all of
Rocket
them
League
shut
mixed
down.
with like Splatoon. It's just
Yeah, and like Knockout City was like similar, and you got like the other like that also shut down this year. They all have like similar names.
yeah.
I'm kind of blanking on
It
like
just
a
goes to show you, like
wrestling game, WrestleMania.
like
that it?
you can have one really successful game like Rocket League, and then every company is like, okay, let's make our version of that, but it takes 3-4 years to do, and then they get it out, and everybody's like, what? Oh, I remember when I played that in high school. Like everybody's grown up by then. The trend's over. You can't copy a phenomenon like that. You have to do your own thing, and this unfortunately just wasn't it. Except those 54 people are probably very upset.
Or they're liking it. They're happy that it's over.
Like, finally.
They can finally play other games.
Oh yeah, by the way, everybody, like the stream. That does help. That does help. Thank you, my friend. And another super chat. Thank you, Taz. Hype makes you stupid, and Jor Raptor wonder when the next video will be. I do agree. Hype makes you stupid. And Jor, when's your next video?
Yeah, that's a good question. So as I said at the top of this show, so a little earlier in the stream, we have like kind of this holiday break right now where Joyce and Dennis are both not working. They are like or getting their deserved holiday break. I'll actually be going to Spain in the coming days, so I'm hyped for that. And next week we will be back for full force. But there are still 3 videos dropping this week. One of them is like going over the big games that are still coming out in 2023. So look forward to that. And another one is the Sunday video that I always do every Sunday. So yeah, that will still be happening. Only I won't be doing it. Someone else will. Pretty exciting.
Interesting.
Kind of scary.
Compelling.
But yeah, next week we will be back full force.
Full force, baby. Yeah, we're going to start getting games releasing in August again. It's going to be refreshing and wonderful.
I mean, Remnant is out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Wait, like, here's a good thing. So I'm gonna actually play this after this stream. So,
oh, baby,
kind of interested.
Interesting.
Want to jump to Red real quick? I thought it was curious to hear this. I'm not sure. It's kind of like older news. It's kind of like a leak, and I'm just not sure what to make of it. So someone over on Reset Era, I think it was John Harker, who is like a known insider according to the mods who verified him or knows things. He's described as known things in that community. So, I mean, we can, of course, still take it with a grain of salt. But, yeah, there is some truth to this. They said that Red, so Assassin's Creed codename Red, the Japan game from Quebec, the Syndicate, and Odyssey makers, that it will be the last of the Origins formula.
Ooh.
Game is slated for next year, probably. So a cool PS5 Pro launch game. But more on that in a second.
That's interesting. So what exactly is described by Origins for? Does he just mean like doing the sort of weird spin-off Witcher 3 inspired type of thing? And then after that...
Yeah, sorry, go.
I was just going to say, like, after this, it's just, I guess, more specialized games like they've described, like games that are focused on more... environmental storytelling or other games. Like, are they going to try to get into third person like action narrative games, kind of like Sony Santa Monica's been doing? Like, I
think Hexe will probably be more like that. That's my read on that game. But I think my read on this, like the last of the Origins formula, to me says that they, of course, with Origins started something, and Odyssey and Valhalla were basically the same type of games, like very similar, but yeah, in a different setting. So Origins launched. There are like many, like apart from the overall RPG structure, because that's kind of my thing. I don't think there will not be a new Assassin's Creed RPG after Red, because they make a ton of money. Like, they're the most successful Assassin's Creed types of games now. But what you did see was that Origins started this. Okay, we have the sort of more grounded Egyptian, or of course like the origins of the hidden ones, like how did that came to be, but also like the whole story was pretty grounded. And then they got crazy with mythology in the DLC. We had like item packs at launch. It started with a mount and an armor pack. Then with Odyssey, they added the naval stuff. You had your Raven. Like there were like many things that all these games had, but they built on top of each other. You had like a Reda character where you could go to get like free Helix items if you were lucky. There were like dailies, there were like weeklies. They really like took a lot of things from those games and put them in the next one. And of course, like Red with Japan makes sense for that as well. Like have a very grounded sort of story in that setting, and then for the DLCs go crazy, like going to Atlantis or whatever, but then in the Japanese mythology. That's kind of my read on it, that they will just really follow something that worked for them for a long time, instead of maybe really trying to reinvent what an RPG could be for the Assassin's Creed series. That's kind of my read on it.
All right, I mean, that makes sense, I think. And
Yeah.
People probably aren't that frustrated by it. I mean, it's not a bad idea. Nerdrage, thing for the super chat. Does that mean Red will be on the same engine that Odyssey, Origins, and Valhalla used, or will it be just referring to the RPG formula?
I mean, spoiler alert, all the Assassin's Creed games are on the same engine. So
Like same tool set, kind of like how, like I don't know if they've made any big upgrades or anything like that with Reds.
No.
But I would imagine it's like a generation newer compared to what Mirage is going to be using. So probably closer to what like Pandora looks like, because that's apparently their next gen engine.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think so as well. Like, but I think like Mirage really looks like Valhalla. I do think that this, because it's also like the first next gen only Assassin's Creed. Like this will not launch on PS4, Xbox One, so that's already exciting. But maybe it won't be like, my sort of thing with this news is that it maybe won't be that jump that we wanted when you think of like the jump that we saw before, like from a Black Flag to Unity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those games are also, still similar, but also quite different in terms of the scope and what they were trying to do. But you did see that when looking at the trailer, you saw immediately, okay, this is like feels completely new. Maybe we won't see that as much with Red. That's kind of my read on it, that they will still play it safe and do things that worked for them, instead of really trying to from Syndicate to Origins, completely different games. So maybe that will be won't be the jump that we see this time.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the frustrating things. I think people look back at the last generational shift and saw just how crazy big the differences were. I mean, you look back at like GTA, or maybe the better example is like Red Dead 1 versus Red Dead 2. Those are technically a generation apart, and night and day. You know, it's crazy. However, like it's just not, we're in a different age now where the improvements are more incremental. You know, think of a logarithmic scale. It kind of plateaus as we get higher and higher and further along. And that's why a lot of the improvements and advancements right now are being made in things like ray tracing or global illumination tech, or discussions of AI and NPC behavior. And I think that's where the bigger changes are going to be made. Which is an interesting shift into another topic, a PS5 Pro update, sort of a mid-generation refresh, which this report comes from the one and only Mike Straw from Insider Gaming. And basically what's described are some leaks related to the PS5 Pro, which is codenamed Project Trinity, and allegedly, it's already having demo events held to showcase the improvements. It's also stated that the majority, quote unquote, majority of studios will receive dev kits by late 2023, and this would be targeting a release in like November of next year. As far as specs are concerned, those, according to the report, that have been tough to obtain. However, two things that we do know is that the PS5 Pro will feature 18,000 MT's memory. I'm not sure
Do you
what
know?
MT is.
Okay.
I'm not
Okay.
sure. Maybe Google it. I'm not sure. And 30 WGP or working group processors.
Hmm.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
I mean, what you read for the targeting, improved and consistent FPS at 4K resolution, a new performance mode for 8K, what the heck that ever means, and accelerated ray tracing. Like that's, I think, what we want,
Yeah.
right?
It
What we
sounds
expect.
like 4K native 60 is what they
Finally.
want. That's what they want. And they will have a performance mode running at 8K, probably like they did with the PS4 Pro, where they did like the checkerboarding upscaling and stuff like that. So it will be better than just putting a 4K signal and letting the TV stretch it. But then again, an 8K display, I'm going to tell you this as somebody who used to sell TVs. The size that an 8K TV has to be for you to visually see a difference with your human eye is larger than most people's houses or apartments. Like, it's ridiculous how big that display has to be for you to sit at a reasonable distance where you could see the entire screen. Like, you're talking about like an IMAX screen, basically, is what we're referring to. So
Yeah.
8K is going to be a little stupid. I would much rather them just crank 4K 120, which maybe they'll also support. They reference better
Yeah,
FPS
probably.
stability, so hopefully that just comes with straight up 120 frames support at 4K, which would be awesome. And talk about like pushing PC devs a little bit, because right now 4K at like 130 140 is only really possible with like a 4090, like a $1,500 graphics card. So, or maybe it's like 1700 now. So to have a console, which maybe the PS5 Pro launches, well, I guess that's another question. Where do you think they price this thing? Where do you think this lands? Do you think they
500?
slash the PS5 and this just becomes 500?
No. I think it will be similar to the PS4. Or do you mean slash like decrease the price for that?
For like the base
Or
PS5 goes to like
uh
350 and then the PS5 Pro takes over the
no.
500 spot?
I mean, we already have rumors that they're gonna do like a slim version. Like, let's not forget that there is a $400 PS5 out there. That's the digital edition. And like the rumor, of course, that we also discussed before is that they're gonna do a slim model that will just be one without a disk drive. And if you then for probably $400, and then if you want the disk drive, you'll probably have to pay like $100 extra to get like the disk drive. But that will probably stop a lot of people from even bothering, and then more people will embrace the digital future as Sony would like, because they get way more money from that. So I think it will probably be PS5 Pro 500, 550, and then the PS4 or the regular PS5 will just stay 400. Like, I don't think they have to, because I think like even launching the Slim at 400 is already a pretty significant price cut, even though the digital PS5 was 400 as well. But it just feels like the digital PS5 was never really available from what I see. I don't know anyone who has that.
I have a digital. Right here actually.
You
It's
bought
the one
the
in
only
studio.
one.
I was the one guy.
Yeah.
So I have a digital and the regular, and you know, it's fine. They maybe they fix it by now, but I've outlined many times before. I've had a nightmare getting games I previously played on PS4 with a disc working on this, even if I buy another copy that has the digital license. Like it's a nightmare. So hopefully they fix that and streamline it. Because basically, like, I played Death Stranding with a disc on the PS4, but then of course I can't play that on the discless digital PS5 because I can't put the disc in. So I
No.
bought for $10 another copy of Death Stranding digitally to play on this, but the software in the PS5 still thinks I need a disc, which is mildly infuriating. But anyway, one of the interesting things about this mid-gen refresh is paired with some news that came out about a month ago. It's very interesting. PlayStation is doing a mid-gen refresh next year. They're doing the Slim. They're doing all of that. Apparently, according to a couple of articles, Microsoft speaking on the Digital Foundry Weekly podcast, it was revealed that Microsoft allegedly views the Series X as their mid-gen refresh, and the S is their standard machine. And in other words, the Series S is their like standard bearer. That's their main console, and they view the X as already being the mid-gen refresh that launched 3 years ago. Which to me makes me wonder, what the hell does mid-gen refresh mean at that point? That doesn't make any damn sense. And I think this would be really, really surprising if this is how they're actually approaching it. They say the Series S is actually the standard console for this generation of consoles by Microsoft, and the Series X is the upgraded version of it that they basically launched 3 years earlier, even though the Series X is what's directly competing with the PS5.
PS5, yeah.
This is wild.
I mean, I think there are like two ways to kind of look at it. And one way is that, as we also learned through the Activision and Blizzard and FTC sort of court battle, that they are not really in the business of doing consoles anymore. Like also Phil Spencer on the Kind of Funny podcast, he was like talking about the fact that they already lost the war, and even if Starfield is on 11, there won't be people that will sell their PS5s to get an Xbox. Like they are really like thinking beyond that, because they don't think they can beat Sony at Sony's game. So that's why they are going everywhere and trying to get Game Pass on your Samsung TV or your freaking roaster. Like it has to get everywhere, and I think that also then makes sense for them to not invest in another console and not invest in another machine, when I think like already the PS5 is outselling the Xbox Series, I think 2-1. So so would it for them really be smart to alienate or like their audience even more, when right now it seems that they can't even sell enough Xbox Series consoles? So, and of course all their games are launching on PC anyways. So like for Sony, it makes sense that they wanna like have because when Spider-Man comes out, you will be only able to play it on PS5. So if Wolverine, for example, launches next year and you want the best possible version, you only had to choose, like you could only go for the PS5 version. But with a PS5 Pro, there was actually a second better version that maybe might entice more PC players to also get a PS5. Maybe that's their approach. And for Xbox, doesn't really matter. It's just that they also want to be in the business for home consoles, but they don't care if you play it on PC or via your mobile phone, stream it there. So that's probably why. I do think it kind of sucks though, because I wish the Series S, even though I know it's great, because I also talked to someone like this week where it was like, yeah, I bought the Series S, like $300, and I can play all the new games. I do still think that, especially if we hit the like end of this life cycle, which is 8 years, at least, like the court documents also reveal that Microsoft thinks that the PlayStation 5 and the new Xbox, like the real new one, will launch at the end of 2028. Then this whole generation for third-party games wasn't that big of a leap, because Microsoft put out a console that sure was better than the One X, but not that much.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks, and that's why I think we're also seeing the PS5 games, like with Final Fantasy 16, that are really blowing me away. And yeah, we just haven't seen that yet on the Xbox console, or as far as I can see, like their own exclusives.
Yeah.
Are not like from that fidelity standpoint, but
and I can understand how they're like, well, we have two scalings that you have to get games at on Xbox. You have to get it running on the Series S and the Series X. So why would we introduce a third for an even higher fidelity? That's just plus, I mean, it's probably not going to sell too crazy great. I think it actually might, but just optically, it's also surprising that Microsoft is just like, yeah, we're not even going to bother doing a mid-gen refresh. That excitement that comes, like, love it or hate it, there are a lot of people that at this point, even 3 years into the gen, would be very happy to pay for a higher end console that doesn't have the restrictions the PS5 currently does. Like for my stuff, yeah, if I can choose to buy a console that's going to run this stuff at 4K native 60 without having to do something blurry and gross like Jedi Survivors did, I would much rather do that. Like, I don't want my games looking like I smeared Vaseline on my display. Yeah, I'm much happier paying a little bit extra. That is a privileged position, certainly, but that's why the base PS4 or PS5 Slim, it will still be available. So, very surprising to me that Xbox is just not gonna do it. Seemingly, it's baffling to me.
Maybe they also saw like the One X didn't do that well, and of course, I think you also made the point when we discussed the PS5 Pro the last time that it was really needed because 4K displays were like way more common, and then to still have like still with the Switch, I'm never gonna like hook that up to my TV because I don't want a 1080p image on my like OLED 4K, so I'm just like, and I prefer the handheld mode anyways, but it feels like really ancient for that system to not have a 4K mode. And like that was, of course, the reason why these mid-gen refreshes made sense. Although, again, like we said, I hoped that we would be in a 4K 60 situation for all the upcoming games, but that's sadly not the case. And I do think the PS5 Pro will do that. Like, so
Yeah.
that's already for me enough to get it. I think we also got like here Spencer saying, "Are we getting a PS5 Slim later this year too?" So the Pro is like 2024, but the Slim is still rumored to launch this year. So like, and they could just like because they don't want to like announce that and launch it a months later because then it will hurt the current PS5 sales. So they will of course wait and then launch it immediately. Let's see, we got some extra questions here that I see.
Any issues with the Series S so far has literally been a developer end skill issue. I've heard two conflicting things. Some people, this usually seems to be coming from like the more Xbox sycophant types. They say that there's no difference between them. A handful of devs I've heard speak on it and that have gone on Twitter explaining their position say it is a real bottleneck that limits what you can do. It just is, specifically within the memory. So I'm not a game dev. I won't pretend to be, but it seems at the very least it's an open question, and game devs that have spoken on it seem to be pretty clear. The Series S, Xbox requiring developers support Series S versions of their games has been frustrating for them because it is weaker. It just is.
Yeah. And for all the third-party games, again, especially probably as we near that end life cycle, the base model was usually like PS4, Xbox One was the same, and now it's like PS5, Xbox Series. I wish that was like the baseline, but no, there's like a $200 cheaper machine below that. Mm-hmm. Which totally is going to hurt those games, sadly a bit. And that's I think why Baldur's Gate 3 is not launching on Xbox. Because they just can't get the split screen to work on that console. Yeah. So they're like, we're not going to do it.
Just can't do it. Wouldn't it be a bottleneck on PC if that was the case? Well, the great thing about PC ports is that they can put it up on Steam with system requirements, and if your PC can't run it, it just doesn't run it. Whereas on Xbox, if it doesn't run it, they have, like, they're not getting certified by Xbox to release it. Like, Xbox has to basically give you permission to release on their stores. You can't just, like, hop on and sell for, like, on Steam it's like $100 application to be a Steam developer, and then you can list a game on Steam. On Xbox you got to go through certifications just like with PlayStation. So yeah, I mean, a game can be demanding on PC and it's not that big of a deal by comparison. But anyway, yeah, mid-gen refresh, Sony's getting one, Xbox fans won't, and apparently not even like a slim version. So what you've got is going to be all there is for, I mean, pretty much a decade.
Would be funny if they just launched the Series X again. Like, this is our mid-gen refresh. Here it is again.
The Series Z. It's just the same thing with a Z sticker on it.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to recapture some of that excitement. Oh, man. Well, let's shift forward to this. We kind of touched on this briefly. The new Insomniac game. And
third one.
Basically we know they're working, of course, on Spider-Man 2. We know they're working on a Wolverine game. Yeah. We didn't know they were working on something else, but apparently they are.
Yeah.
which is surprising.
Yeah, so I think we already touched on it in the sort of and you of course earlier in the stream and I bit at the front here that like yes, just a producer was like on a podcast, "Hey, I'm working on an unannounced game at Insomniac," and then it's immediately like, "What? We already knew about two big AAA games." So from my understanding is that the Spider-Man 2018 team, or at least like the leaders, like Brian Intar, the creative director, he immediately after that game shipped went to work on Spider-Man 2. Then there was a different team inside Insomniac, probably with a lot of like regular Spider-Man PS4 people that then worked on Miles Morales. But Miles Morales had a different game director and a creative director, and they are now doing Wolverine, while that 2018 team is doing the Spider-Man 2 game. So you have those two teams. But like you also mentioned, I think during the stream, we also had the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart team that launched a game in 2021 with it now coming to PC. So, and they always had like back before they were bought by Sony, they had like the VR teams. They had like huge deals with Oculus, and even with GameStop. I'm not sure if you remember that, where they like launched very small like Song of the Deep, like very small sort of indie style games for GameStop that wanted to try publishing as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, they always have like two studios as well, and I think just like the main studio is like the Marvel studio, and then the other team is doing something else. And I'm not sure if you already want to add on to that, or I can like add some extra research that I found.
Yeah, go for it. Walk us through.
So so they like also 2 years ago, so I think in 2021, I have to check. Here, June 2021. So around the time that they actually shipped Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, they were hiring for a multiplayer project. Yes, a systems designer is what they needed. And if you like, it's still up, or actually, there's like an older article about it. So what they wanted from the system designer that worked on the multiplayer game, that they would have a thorough understanding of melee combat systems, enemy design, and boss design. And the designer would help develop combat, navigation, progression, and economy for a multiplayer environment. Sounds like a Spider-Man game to me.
A Spider-Man multiplayer game? Gee whiz.
I mean, that would be printing money, right? But there is this other thing, and because I think that just makes too much sense, and also like what the system designer has to do. That just sounds like Spider-Man to me. But there was also this like other job listing where they said assist in pre-production planning and new IP development with creative directors. So they're also throwing new IP in there, and of course it's kind of getting wishy-washy if it is like a new IP, because like a new intellectual property with like a Spider-Man multiplayer. Although if you think new IP, it's probably like something completely new. But yeah, that's kind of all the info we have about this.
I mean, it makes sense. Sony, as we've said, is doubling down on live service stuff. They want more multiplayer games that can print money. Because why not?
Sure.
And this seems to be their I mean, once again, another studio working on it. A handful of their best studios are allegedly working on multiplayer stuff, and it's crazy to see, because I think everybody just assumed, oh, Sony, they do really good single player games. But like I've said before, we're going to start to see over the next few years, a lot of Sony's announcements are tied up in multiplayer games. And you shouldn't get too bummed, because like they're still making the single player games. They're just filling in the empty space between with live service games. But buckle up.
Or I think the realistic future is that it's the other way around. That they have these live service games and they fill the empty spots with single player games.
Yeah, it's all a matter of perspective, right?
Yeah. But it's like you said, like the coming years, like we already saw that with the May PlayStation Showcase, where the 3 new games they announced were all live service. So, or like even 4 if you like count the Bungie game, of course, as well. So kind of scary. And now Insomniac doing it as well. But I mean, at least we know from them that they have Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. It's
And I'm
just
sure they will make Spider-Man 3. Like, why not?
exactly. Well, and I mean, we might get Wolverine and just be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing. I forget Spider-Man. I want more of this." So, you never know, but I do fully suspect that there's going to be a shift in, let's just say, player excitement or player perception
Yeah.
towards Sony,
Yeah.
because I think it's going to feel like a bit of a 180. Like that feeling we all had after that Sony showcase earlier this summer. I think that's going to be a pretty common feeling for the next couple of years, because most of their announcements are going to be tied up in the multiplayer stuff. And a
Yeah.
lot of people are going to be like, "Where's Bloodborne 2?" And they're like, "Well, we don't have it, but we have this weird multiplayer game where you shoot people while saying that you're a good person for not shooting other people." Like, it's going to be really frustrating. So
Yeah.
buckle up. It's going to
Yeah.
be really funny.
I gotta say though, like I'm not sure if you watched the latest Spider-Verse movie.
I
But
don't
that
think I did.
like
Yeah.
no, you totally should. But that like basically showed what a live service Spider-Man can be, because there are so many like iterations of Spider-Man throughout the many years,
Mhm.
and they basically had a sort of hub space where all the Spider-Man would hang out together, and then they would be like go on a mission, go to a different like universe, and then like do a mission, take out a boss there, and then return to the hub. Like it really felt like, okay, so why is this not a game any like yet? I really think it could be great. Like they could really print money if like have a if like a like where you make your own Spider-Man, or like pick one of the many Spider-Man that have been released throughout the many years. Like that would be crazy. Like make a gotcha Spider-Man game. Sony.
Yeah. Do you,
I
are you
I,
allergic
I
to money? Yeah, they'd
like
swim in
Genshin
it.
Impact, but with Spider-Man. Oh my
Oh,
god.
buckle up, everybody. I bet that they just like pitched that to executives at Sony, and they were just like, they stood up,
They got a
walked
little wet, I
over,
think.
grabbed a couple of bags full of cash, threw them at him, and said, "Go now, do
Yeah.
it."
Why haven't you started yesterday?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, shifting forward a little bit, keeping the ball rolling, let's just quickly touch on the last couple of things that we have in the dock, such as Resi 4. Resident Evil 4 Remake has surpassed 5 million units worldwide in less than 4 months, which is quite successful. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good. Resident Evil 4 Remake was released in March of this year. This implies that the popular remake has managed to sell over 5 million copies in less than 4 months. Shortly after the game's global launch, Capcom announced that the remake sold over 3 million in just 2 days. Oh, baby. That'll do.
Yeah.
That'll do.
And it's on track to sell more than Resident Evil Village, which for a remake is of course wild. So it might become like the best or like the fastest selling Resident Evil ever.
And I feel like they marketed Village a lot more. At least I remember seeing it a lot more with like billboards and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
So word of mouth
sure.
for 4 Remake was very, very high.
Yeah, and it was. I think it will totally be like in the Game of the Year discussion for some people. It probably won't win, but it will probably be nominated. I think.
Probably.
I still need to play it. I still need it. Came out. I know what I was doing, but I still need to go back to it.
I thought it was really good. I'm not like a hardcore Resi fan.
Same.
I thought it was good and decent. It made me appreciate the groundwork that this game did. Certainly has that Resi clunk, but it was a good time. It was a good time. It made me wonder when we were getting the next one, though. Which was interesting because that was also reported. What did we find out, Mr. Joel Raptor, about Resident Evil 9?
Well, if you've been following like Capcom leaks, I know it's kind of specific, but you have like one insider, Dusk Golem, and they like always show up. They said they retired like a few times already, but then they still hear something and they want the cloud, so they go to the Snitchers Discord of all places. Like Snitch is another leaker. They now made like a Discord. Dusk Golem is like chilling there and saying that is aiming for a 2025 release window and that it will likely be announced next year. So that would be, I mean, they have been like doing this every other year release cadence for Resident Evil now, I think for a very long time. So this makes sense. and then it will probably be announced at the Sony showcase like they usually do. Maybe they have a demo out, which they sometimes do, and then it launches like in early or the spring after that.
I've been trying to think what they name this. Like if it has a 9 in the title, how do they? It's like, okay, so it's IX, so maybe it's like it's Resident Evil Bix mix or something like that. They're gonna do something stupid with the name because they just love to do that. But yeah, we should be getting something in a while. But they're taking their time. Yeah,
that's not all though, because Capcom, of course, they're really doing well. Every year they're making more money than the year before, which is kind of crazy. And Dust Gollum also says there's a big Capcom game being announced at the end of this year that is releasing in fall 2024. So any guesses for what that might be? A big Capcom game announced at the end of the year, probably Game Awards then.
Big Capcom. I mean, Capcom did Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a Monster Hunter universe or whatever is after World, I'm just gonna be real, guys. I would cream. I would lose it. Oh God.
It's probably that, right? It feels like World came out in 2018. Feels like a really
long ago. Really?
Yeah. They had the Iceborne DLC in September 2019, and of course some post-launch updates still after that. But like the last one they launched was of course Rise on Switch, which then came to console and PC, or first to PC then to console.
Oh, and dude, it was January of 2018. It was almost 2017.
Man. Yeah.
That's outrageous. I feel
so
ancient.
If that team has been like at work on this next gen only Monster Hunter game for that long, obviously they worked. I think they do have like two teams though, like Rise and the World team. Although of course the sort of director is I think overseeing it all. But yeah, that would be huge. 20 million units sold for World. It's the best selling Capcom game ever, and of course.
Oh, did we lose your audio? Oh, he's working it. He's fixing it. I'll fill in the dead air. I mean, I think this is a no-brainer. If, in fact, that team did shift after Iceborne and move towards working on whatever this next game is, I mean, that's a moneymaker right there. I would lose my mind if they announced that. Talk about one thing that would get me giggly excited at the Game Awards. That's it. That is a layup.
Hello? Yeah. Okay, I'm back. I'm just like so excited, and then I like hit something, and it all breaks. But we're back.
Ripping cables and stuff. I'm so excited.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the Monster Hunter thing. I'm not sure if you want to like do one extra Borderlands type of thing.
Yeah, we could quickly touch on it. Because why not?
Yeah, they basically want to like launch a compilation. That's kind of the leak. So that was also rated like a Borderlands compilation Pandora's box from 2K. So yeah, I would not be surprised if there's like the Handsome style collection. So Borderlands 1, 2, and pre-sequel, but for PS5 and Xbox Series.
Seems like a no-brainer.
Not sure if you
easy money. I mean, I'm not crazy into Borderlands. The one time I did get really, and I played a lot of Borderlands, was like it was in college. It was a very snowy day. I think school had they canceled all the classes because there were like 4 feet of snow outside. So we just stayed in, and then me and my roommate Corey, he had just gotten edibles, and I tried some, and then I melted into the couch, and we played split screen for like 9 hours.
Oh damn!
And
second game or first game?
I was so toasted I don't remember. But I remember having like a decent time, and it was like kind of fun. But like the next day I was kind of I mean, it's okay. I just the loop has never really hooked me. It's always like fun to play with friends for an afternoon, but I've never been like, it sounds good tonight, Borderlands. It's just never hooked me that way.
No, I get it. And like it's crazy how they first like went for this realistic art style. I'm not sure if you remember, like it's like a long time ago, but the first time they announced Borderlands, it had like this brown sort of realistic art style, and now like how it looks, like the colorful sort of cell shaded look, is like really part of the DNA, which I think is interesting. And I'm mostly curious about Borderlands 4, which like Borderlands 3 came out in 2019. I played that game a lot, almost all the DLCs. Like the DLCs are usually really good, but they also had really good free updates every month, which was kind of crazy. But I'm curious what they will do with Borderlands 4. Will they still make it like similar to the older games, or yeah, where you also had like loading screens between zones? It
Yeah.
kind of felt old school, but it's also like part of the Borderlands sort of feel, because that way you can like easily reset different enemies and stuff like that. Or are and like they already tried with all the updates, but are they? It feels like, because Destiny is basically Borderlands, but like full on live service. I would not be surprised if Borderlands 4 goes into that direction more as well.
Yeah, that wouldn't
But
surprise me at all. And you're right. I had
no.
not seen this original trailer. This is the original. For those of you listening, you'll have to look it up. Borderlands E3 2009 reveal trailer. Totally different from what we ended up getting. In like a shocking way. Not even close. Like for 2009, clearly targeting photorealistic. They were trying to be very grounded and gritty. And then you compare it to like the very, very iconic Borderlands art style that we have now. It's just crazy to see. Wow.
It looks still great though. Like this trailer from 2009.
A lot of these games back then are so undersaturated. I don't know if it's that like that was in the age of some of these big blockbuster movies that also did just the gray color grading. Like when did I feel like Zack Snyder did that too. All of his movies are super gray, but that was like Man of Steel was like 2013.
I think like before the update or before the podcast, you also talked about how Insomniac had like only like great games, and I'm not sure if you remember. Oh, damn, what's the name? That's the problem with this game. So they announced a game that looked a lot like Incredibles and Overwatch, like way before Blizzard, and that was called Overstrike.
Okay.
You probably know the trailer if you look it up. I'm not sure if it like fall into your story now. You can like maybe.
Let's see. E3 2011.
Overstrike.
Yeah. Overstrike. This. Okay.
I know the name that they changed it into, because this is interesting. Like this has more that cartoony Borderlands style. It's like you have like 4 characters. They all have their own different ability. Like this looks like a freaking Reinhardt shield.
Mm-hmm.
And then they like sent the bullets back. And every character had like a pretty unique sort of personality, and the enemies were pretty funny as well. At one point, there's like a huge boss that then turns out to be a robot or something. It's like pretty cool. So again, this was 2011, and this looked really like fun. Insomniac to me. Like if you like fast forward a bit. Like,
oh yeah, that's straight up Incredibles. The bubbles and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's like the boss, and but then they changed it to be more. So they basically did a reverse Borderlands, because they changed it into Fuse. And I'm not sure if you remember this game.
Fuse. Hold on. I don't think I do. So it was turned into a game called Fuse.
Yeah, Fuse game. Insomniac.
Fuse launch trailer. Let's see. And this trailer came 10 years in 2013.
Yeah.
Okay, I can still see some of the DNA, but yeah, very different.
And it just became that brown sort of very uninspired look. Like you still have the same characters, but
publishing with EA, that's weird to see.
Yeah, and that's also like, if you think about it, Insomniac, like I still think Sunset Overdrive is my favorite game from them, although Spider-Man is totally like it depends on the day, but I really hold like Overwatch or Sunset Overdrive really yeah, I thought it was really, really special. But if you think about it, the only successful games that they launched were with Sony, like Ratchet and Clank, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy. Well, and it's funny because Sunset Overdrive comes out, and it's like they just all of a sudden realized, hey, we're really good at this kind of thing with like crazy, wacky, fast movement. And then that's what they did. Because this game is like polar opposite to that. It's like slow moving cover based shooter.
yeah,
And so it's just fascinating to see them kind of experiment with different stuff and then eventually figure out what they're really, really good at.
I really think that only like
Hmm.
100,000 people played this, maybe even less. Like it really no one played this game. Wow, it was like this huge. It also had like the worst sort of um, box art error where they
Mhm.
cut off the heads. Either way, that's a small history lesson.
Yeah, that's
Insomniac,
crazy.
love them, but yeah, that game just it felt like poorly managed from. I mean, it must be EA, right? They were like, "Hey, we don't want this cartoony stuff. Everyone is making realistic brown games. Let's do that."
Make our own Call of Duty and it'll totally be awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone will be super stoked on us.
And then they launched Battlefield Hardline.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a good deep cut right there. That's awesome. I had no idea. That's wild. I love stuff like that though. Like these weird stories from the past in the gaming industry. Like Jacob actually is writing or wrote a script for an upcoming video. This is a little keep an eye out for this on the main channel, but we're doing a new kind of video where he basically finds interesting stories from the gaming space, and then I'm exposed to them for the first time while we film a video on it, kind of
Oh.
exploring it. And he did one on like I've said many times, one of my dream games was like a really dark, gritty Pirates of the Caribbean game. I think that has so much potential.
Yeah.
And they were working on it. They were, and they like announced it. It was basically done, and it was like gonna be a pretty big deal. And then a series of things happened, and it just fell apart. And it's really too bad. And we're not talking about like just a licensed spin-off. What was it called, Jacob? It was called I wanted to just show the gameplay trailer that they had. Game cancel. Oh, this.
Yeah,
Pirates of the
Brennan makes a
Caribbean.
great point. Like Gears of War set the color palette for the whole 360 gen, for sure, for sure. And it's so weird that now a lot of like games are pivoting to that Overstrike style, while Insomniac was they were just 10 years like
Mhm.
too early on that.
Well,
Oh
and
damn, this looks
yeah, and this like was done. Armada of the Damned. They put this whole thing together, and this isn't exactly what I was envisioning. Like I would rather, lots of sailing on the open sea and things like that. But you can see just the scope. I mean, they had whole islands for you to explore,
oh
which
whoa.
was kind of crazy for the time.
You got like a
And
cool view right here, like looking over the whole island. It looks really big.
yeah, and this was something that, as far as I can tell, was effectively done. And I don't know if it was licensing issues or what. We're going to get into that in that video. But this thing never saw the light of day, which is heartbreaking. Absolutely heartbreaking. But if you guys have any other stories of games that looked great that never saw the light of day, let us know. And maybe we'll make a video about them and shout you out.
There was one in Las Vegas.
Oh, really? Oh, hello. Oh, and we're getting a visit from the little one right on the podcast. Do you want to say hello to the podcast people?
Oh, is it the podcast? I thought that was
Hello.
Wednesday.
We did it today. Hi, everybody. Do you want to say hi to everybody?
Hello.
Little Lachlan James. Do you want to say anything to the people listening?
La la la.
Good singing. That's very nice.
This.
Yeah.
This.
Well put. I don't know how to phrase it better than that. I'll tell you what. Now he's got to go mess with some Legos. No, Finley. And then the cat's trying to break into.
The whole family's
The
here.
whole family's here. The whole family's here. But yeah. Oh, hello, fella. Oh, hello. And then little Mr. Orion is here as well. Yeah. So, anyway, wait, which game did he just review 10 out of 10 just now? I don't know. He won't tell me.
It's on Metacritic, so it can't be erased.
Yeah, the Lachlan review of each of these games.
Yeah.
Oh, but man, there's so many stories of these games that were so promising, and then they just didn't go anywhere, and
Yeah.
it's really too bad. Oh, thank you.
I think Deep Down is a good one from Goose. That's a really good one.
Deep Down.
Can we go downstairs?
Yeah. Know that one?
I will search it in just a second. Mark, I'll see you in a few minutes, okay?
Let's go get some lunch, baby. Come
I still, because it was never officially cancelled, I still like Deep Down. Hope that it's like at one point just like resurfaces and becomes like a real thing, because that looked, even for that time, stunning. Maybe too good to be true, which is probably why they cancelled it. But it was really weird. You had this modern sort of GTA Online style apartment, and then you would like to get like stuff for that apartment. You would go into these very dark Demon Souls style dungeons.
Yeah, I remember. I had this. We did look at this actually recently. It doesn't look bad. Huh. Actually, it looks
Yeah,
really
Pragmata is totally Deep Down too. Yeah. But I felt that Deep Down was like announced at the PS4 reveal event, and then we still like did not hear. I think they did at Tokyo Game Show like a gameplay demo, and then it was quiet. Pragmata though, they every year now they post a tweet with like that small, like the child crying or something, or like being happy, and then they say, "Oh, well, we will see you next year." And that's like every year so far. But
Oh, that's a good
people
question.
played it.
Oh, I just saw Rocky's question, and I really want to know what is. I guess we can wrap up with this too. People
Ooh.
know my dream game. It's like a Naughty Dog or Rockstar level of quality pirate game set in the golden age of piracy, probably from the perspective of Anne Bonny. I think that would be amazing. But what is Joraptor's dream game?
It's kind of I really want, like, okay, I want like a game that I did not know I wanted. That's like my the thing that I like the most. That's why I love Horizon. I did not know I wanted to hunt robot dinosaurs with a bow and arrow, but when I saw that, I immediately knew this is my dream game. So, but like if I have to think of, like, I personally, if I had to pick, like maybe a bit in the same vein, like I hope that Rockstar also goes into the fantasy realm, because I always really, really like their games, but the things that I never really like about them is that they are too realistic. For example, that in Red Dead 2, if your horse dies in the middle of the desert, yeah, you're screwed. You have to walk. I don't like stuff like that, but it makes sense for that world. So if they make like a fantasy RPG in like a medieval setting, I would lose it. And there were actually once rumors about that happening, but I just want that really, really that because even Red Dead 2, like my experience mostly with Red Dead 2, like I liked the story, but it was mostly just exploring and then finding this sort of someone asking for my help to then later figure out that they were like teasing me and were robbing me, and then they stole my horse. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I still think that Red Dead 2 has the best open world that we've ever seen so far, and it's kind of crazy that it came out in 2018, and now 5 years later, we still have not seen something that matches that. But seeing that more in a setting that I like more. Like, I think the Wild West is great, but I think a fantasy RPG where you can also just like use magic to like have a horse magically appear. I think for me that would be like the best of both worlds, right? And I just want to see what the imagination of the Rockstar team can be if they're not like like they're not like chained by the sort of things that are real in the real world. So I just want like an open world on the Red Dead 2 level, but maybe with a more fantasy type experience. And that's why I like The Witcher 3, for example. Like, for example, in the Rockstar game, it's like, oh, there's a monster there. So it's not that happens often, but you always know it's never a monster because that's not real. While in The Witcher, you were always like, okay, it can be a werewolf or it can be something else, and we will figure out and see. And that's what I really loved. So to have a game like that, but with the sort of Red Dead world, I think that would be the dream game for me.
I can totally I can totally understand. I mean, it's been rumored for a long time that Rockstar is working on something medieval. As for whether it's like medieval fantasy, I don't know.
Probably not.
Probably not. But like even
Like
a medieval
Game of
game,
Thrones style game from Rockstar.
yeah. I mean, imagine that. Oh baby. Well, I like when you were describing, I was like, oh, what would like a Harry Potter style game from Rockstar look like? Like that would be just outrageous. And like so, just to add a little bit of magic would be wild. But like there are leaks and stuff. Where like a LinkedIn post from Rockstar character artist Pawas Sazena point to Project Medieval. The description of current projects at Rockstar at the time of this article being written last year said that he was creating, quote, modular environment pieces with organic finish, carefully following medieval architectural style. And I don't think anybody expects GTA 6 to have a medieval architectural style. So they very well could be working on stuff.
Yeah, but that's like all though. Like that's so specific, and that could still be interpreted in multiple ways. Like, what if there is like a level where, or like an arcade cabin in GTA 6 where you like play a MIDI? Like, there are so many ways that this could. I know that's also far fetched, but I like they are working all hands on deck on GTA 6, and I just hope that after that they don't go back to Red Dead, but like really make something new. That we finally get a new game from them. And LA Noire was basically also another game that I did not know I wanted. But it's like really crazy that we don't have a lot of these like detective games on that like budget level.
Yeah.
And like the thing there where if you were late at a crime scene, the person that committed the crime could have already left. So there you were always in a rush. It was like that was like another thing that I could not like tell you right now that I wanted, but that was like a really thing that normally I'm like, oh, what's that over there? What's that over there? And I know, okay, the end of the world is coming, but I can do all these side missions and the end of the world will still not be there. But in this game, it was really, I have to get there as fast as possible. Otherwise, this killer, I might not be able to catch it, which is crazy.
No, absolutely. I totally agree. LA Noire, if somehow you guys have not played it, you need to play it. It's so good.
I'm not sure how it holds up, but it's
a little
in my
rough.
memory, it's
like
probably
the animations are there's times when they're better and times when they're worse. There's a couple of moments because basically how they did it is they did the facial capture with cameras surrounding you, and then they projected that video, kind of 3D video, onto a flat model of the character's face. And then the walking and arms and everything was captured in a motion capture session later, sometimes 6 months later or longer later. And so every once in a while there's a scene or a cutscene where they're walking, but their faces clearly do not match what their bodies are doing, and it creates some really funny moments. Just look up on YouTube funny LA Noire animation or whatever. You'll see some of the highlight reels that people have done of it. But yeah, LA Noire, that game deserves a sequel, man. Oh, it's so
yeah. And I see people in the chat saying here, like the open world, like it was more like a mafia style where that's more the decor like of the game, while you go from mission to mission instead of it really being like an open world you want to explore. But it did make like chasing the killer and stuff like that, or like suspicious targets, like more interesting than to have it be like a more linear structure. So
yeah, absolutely
great.
But everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of with me and the one and only Joe Raptor. What do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say before we?
Not really. Like, I'm gonna jump into Remnant 2, so I'm curious about that. And apart from that, I think we will talk to each other next week when I'm like back from my Barcelona trip.
Absolutely. So have a wonderful time doing that. For everybody else here in chat, I am going to it looks like I'm going to be working on a couple of reviews over the next week, so our streams might be a little bit inconsistent, but I will try to schedule them in advance so people can see them. It's just tricky because, of course, like we like hanging out here and playing games on stream or talking on stream, but when we're talking about games that have not released yet and that are under embargo, you can't really stream it. So it's a little tough to stream during normal hours when you're trying to get through a game. So That's the whole thing. Luke has a Starfield coffee confirmed. Dude, there is no way. If Bethesda like even responds to an email related to Starfield, I will be shocked because they don't really like talking to me anymore. But I get it. I totally understand it. But
I mean, you can still play the early access, like if you just pay up. So
yeah,
then yeah.
I have to pay for my games. Can you guys believe this? A YouTuber paying for a game? What nonsense is this? Oh God. Oh, Brandon, I like that catchphrase as ending the stream. Every time we end, I'm like, hey, Joe Raptor, got anything to say? And then you go, you just got free roamed. And then you hang up.
Whoa.
That sounds terrible. Anyway, everybody, much love. Rocky, don't worry, I'll check the DMs. I got you. Stay safe, everybody. Much love. We'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.